Sup my loves, my name is Paige, this is Pages with Paige, and today we're going to be doing my September wrap up. In September, I just went for it. I ended up reading 12 books and I'm really impressed with what they were. It was such a weird month, but in the best possible way. I sort of just mood read a little bit because I'd let myself Cluedo prompts. As long as they were fulfilled some way, I could read whatever. Yeah, so I did. I was also participating in Seasonathon, which I completed, and the Cluedo meets Bookopoly-thon. I did that and sort of just mood read my way through. So let's talk about the statistics about the 12 books I read in September. As I said, I read 12 books, which equated to 4,538 pages. Yay! So that was 151 pages per day and equated to 378 pages per book. So not like 500 page books, but we're getting on the up, and that 378 is perfect for where I feel like I'm reading big books but also balancing it out with small books and still reading like a lot. My average rating was a 4.25. For genres, I read 3 classics, 1 contemporary, 2 dystopian, 2 fantasy, 1 historical fiction, 1 horror, 1 non-fiction, and 1 paranormal. In terms of format, I read 2 ebook audiobook combinations and 10 physical and audiobook combinations. My god. One of those ebook audio I now have purchased the physical copy of, which we'll see. In terms of age audience, I read 5 adult, 3 new adult, and 4 YA. For my ratings, I gave 3 5 stars, 2 4.5s, 5 4 stars, and 2 3.5s. For my standalones, I read 7. For my series, I started 2 new series, with one of those that I actually continue on with within the month, and I finished 2! I finished 2 series! We're getting there! I'm just proud of myself. For my biggest book, I read Bad Heroines, which was 617 pages, and for my smallest, it was The Art of War by Sun Tzu, which was 101. For my listening hours, it was 53.3 hours. I listened to so many audiobooks, it was glorious. For publication, I had 1 book published in 501. I had 2 in 1876 to 1885. I had 3 from 2011 to 2015, 2 from 2016 to 2020, 2 2021s, and 1 2022. So those were all my statistics. It was a weird month. I read a lot of things that I was interested in and just had a good month. I know that my ratings aren't as reflective of that, as I did have 2 lower reads, but I still actually really enjoyed most everything that I picked up, and yeah, I'm just really proud of what I got accomplished. So the first book that I read was Body of Stars by Laura Maylene Walter, which was Erin's recommendation for my Advent challenge. So let's tick it off before we continue on. I got my little corgo and just the this is so weird doing this with acrylic, so there's that one there. Look at all those little butts! And I gave this a 5 stars. This was following our protagonist coming into their changeling period and the way that women are treated, what happens with women's sense of autonomy, and it was just so fascinating. Moles and freckles on a woman's body is able to be read and able to predict the future to some degree, and as a child they're sort of flexible and changing, and then they hit a particular period of time where they become cemented and have their adult markings, and it tells the projection of their future. But these changelings are sort of ethereal, and people do try to kidnap these girls. When they're kidnapped, they then lose all value to society. A lot of interesting commentary in that regard, and I just had a blast with it. It's the dystopian sort of feminist actions and discussions that I just adore, and I think Erin really knew that it was going to be my vibe, because it definitely pulled it off. Next up, I had one of my 5-star predictions, and that was Station 11 by Emily St. John Mandel, and I gave this a 4.5. I really enjoyed the discussions that were happening in this, and it is following after the events of a plague. I think I just got a little lost because I kept skipping around, and maybe if I had have sat down and followed through the entire book, like there were some times that I just listened to the audiobook, I might have had a better reading experience. Not that it wasn't fantastic, but there was something a little bit lacking for me and I wasn't quite sure what. But I found it really interesting, and I definitely preferred this and their discussions on what's important to society and the interconnections between different time periods and how it all wove together. Then y'all, I did it! I read The Gates of Paradise by Melissa de la Cruz, which is the last book in the Blue Bloods series. I gave it a 4 stars because I really enjoyed how it concluded. I had a lot of fun with this series. There were some low points, but this brought it together nicely. So it was very interesting. I'm glad it's done. This series has been looming over my head for I don't know how long, and it was a binge read except for this one, and I've now finally caught up and I am so proud of myself. Next, I read The Art of War by Sun Tzu, and this was a 3.5 read for me. It is very short, very quick, and I found it really interesting points that were discussed. I just feel like because I chose to listen to the audiobook alongside of this, and the audiobook changes to modern day language to convey the spirit of what's being said more, I think that was the wrong choice for me to listen along while I read along, because I just got confused. But if I didn't listen to the audiobook and read along, I would have not taken in as much about the actual techniques that are put forth. So yeah, it's a bit of a tricky one. I didn't dislike it by any means. I thought it was really cool to listen to, and I really enjoyed listening to the different kinds of strategies that are put forth. With it being so different from the text, it was very jarring to get into, but that's my fault, not the books. I think if you want a quick little read with something different, this is a good thing to pick up. I was reading it for a translated prompt for Sethanon, and also because I recently read The Poppy War, which referenced it quite a bit, so I thought I would check it out. It was good. Next up, I read A Darkness at Sethanon by Raymond E. Feist, which concludes the Magician trilogy. Ah, my soul! So I was reading this on the way back from Sydney, and oh my god, I had fun. I didn't finish it on that trip, but I read a large section of it, and I get so sucked into the world. It's so interesting, and we were talking about this morning on Mel's Sprints, which is now like 3 days ago for you. We were discussing that I'm not a big fan of Game of Thrones because it's all stabby stab rather than like discussy scuss, and I like the discussy scuss mixed in with magic that is prevalent and used, and this does that. I found the magic in this world so interesting. I love the characters. I felt so hard for one of the characters. I always fall for those cute little ones that are little demons, but you love them anyway. And yeah, I gave it 5 stars. I think it was a fantastic conclusion to the trilogy, and I'm keen to continue on with Feisty's work. I'm so proud that I read this and finished up this series. Next up, I read The Adventures of Tom Sawyer by Mark Twain. I had to read a TBR bet, and I picked The Adventures of Huckleberry Finn, and then realized that this one actually came before. So I read The Adventures just to start myself, and I knew that the audiobooks were going to be quick and easy, and I gave it 4 stars. I actually really enjoyed this. I found that it was really interesting in just following kids on an adventure back in the time that it was written. Not too many thoughts in that respect. I found that it was just boys being boys and just the adventures and mischief that they get up to, but it was done well, so I liked it, and that was a nice surprise. Next up, I read A Lesson in Vengeance by Victoria Lee, and I am going to put this towards my Advent challenge of the free space, but I'm changing it from being a free space to actually fulfilling a prompt that Rye sent through post the video going live. So they gave me the prompt that I needed to read the first prompt that was pulled from their TBR Jenga game. Didn't matter what month, but I decided I might as well go with their September one, which was a cover buy, which this most certainly was. It is stunning. I love this so much. That's my free space now actually filled with a proper prompt. So I've got a bingo there. I'm almost there, almost everywhere. We're filling it up. But I'm glad that I've got another bingo now. That's yay! I'm very excited to tick off the rest of this. But thank you, Rye, for sending through the prompt. They did send that through at the beginning of the year when the video went live, so I've had that in my pocket ready to go. I just needed to actually figure out when I was going to apply it, and September was it. A Lesson in Vengeance I gave 4 stars. I really enjoyed it. It was sort of the vibes that I was just wanting in the moment. I think I wanted to start spooky reads earlier, which is kind of funny because I never read spooky vibes because I'm going into spring. But apparently my soul was dark this time. I found the characters to be extremely pretentious and fulfilling that sort of mystical element without being magical in it. I found that it was very reminiscent of If We Were Villains by ML Rio, and I just was here for the vibes. I understand that it's not going to be everyone's cup of tea, and I think a lot of people went into it thinking it was going to be more witchy, but it's really more just club-like girl mentality. I can understand why people don't vibe with it, but it's one of those ones that I really just adore and had a lot of fun with. Then I decided I really just want to hurt myself so deeply in my core, and I read I'm Glad My Mom Died by Jeanette McCurdy. You will not have seen this in the haul because I got this on the first day of October. So I ended up reading it, and then we were waiting for it to come in, but I ended up going down to Sydney, so I picked it up, and holy fuck, this broke me. I need to go back and tab the shit out of it. I really just, my heart goes to Jeanette. I know some people don't rate memoirs because it's their personal experience, but holy shit, I felt Jeanette was writing it in such a way that you felt for her so deeply, but it wasn't designed to elicit emotions from you, the reader. It is her catharsis. That's my opinion. Like, obviously you don't write books for them not to be read, but, or you don't publish books that you don't mean for people to read, but I feel like this was more for her than for us, and I am so thankful that she decided to share her story and allow this insight into what her life was like. A lot of it, I was just sitting there going, holy shit, I was growing up watching this show and you were going through so much. Like, iCarly is one of my favorite shows, and I knew that shit had gone down, which was why they weren't on the reboot, but really this, it's not sensationalized anything. She briefly mentions what's gone down at Nickelodeon, the fact that she got offered hush money, but that's not the main purpose of this, and it's not meant to be like, oh my god, this is so juicy, look at her giving all the goss. No, this is someone like grieving the life that they've had. So yeah. Just know going in there is trigger warnings for parental abuse, eating disorders, homage to sexual misconduct for teenagers, and issues with alcohol. So there's a lot that goes into this, and it hurt me, but I loved it, and I just, my heart. I'm going to shut up about this because if anyone talks to me about it in the next few months, I'm not going to shut my face, so we will continue on. The next thing I read was another 5-star prediction, and that was Plain Bad Heroines by Emily M. Danforth. This is a tome, and I'm so happy that I read it and gave it 4 stars. So not quite the 5-star prediction, and I'm wondering if it's because I read A Lesson in Vengeance and the parallels between the two are quite similar, except this has more whimsical to it. There is a lot of supernatural, but is it happening or is it not, over A Lesson in Vengeance, which is purely academic. I really enjoyed this, and I thought I got sucked in. It was very atmospheric and definitely very dark. We're following a couple of different perspectives as we look at the history of the Plain Bad Heroine Society, as well as an upcoming movie that's being created about it, and just exploring what's going on with Brooklyn's school. And I found it really interesting. Some of it was really creepy, and if you don't like bugs, like, this is not the right book for you. Not that they play, or like if you don't like wasps, this is not the book for you, but there were some really unsettling moments, and a lot of the time I was just like, what the fuck is going on, but in a good way. It's like there was so much happening in all the different perspectives, but it worked so well, and it was just questioning the realism and what was actually happening, and I found that really interesting and really fascinating, so had a lot of fun with it. Then, like I said, I had the TBR vet, which was The Adventures of Huckleberry Finn by Mark Twain, and I gave this a 3.5 because I did not like this as much as The Adventures of Tom Sawyer, mostly because the N-word is constantly and painfully repeated throughout this the entire time, whereas I don't remember hearing it as frequently in the first one. I understand that it's a product of the time, but it doesn't mean I have to enjoy listening to it on repeat, and a lot of the commentary I just don't feel like was great. I enjoyed seeing the adventures, but it just, some stuff just didn't sit well with me, and so I didn't enjoy it as much as The Adventures of Tom Sawyer, which seemed a little bit more innocent. Tom Sawyer's not innocent, but it just went in a different way, whereas this was not as engaging, unfortunately, but I did read it. Then on a much more enjoyable note, I read Ray Bearer by Jordan Fuego, and I gave this a 4.5. So I read this for Voltathon, and everyone seemed to give it 5 stars, and I don't know why I didn't. I think it's a me problem, and I was just starting to get into a reading slump, and I just wasn't in the right headspace to absolutely full 1000% into this. I fell 100%. I absolutely adored the characters. I really enjoyed the magic system. It was so intricately detailed, and the discussions that we had on the live on this were fabulous because there was so much to unpack. My heart just goes out to Tarasai, and I just wanted to give them a big warm hug. There were so many wonderful elements to it. The world building was amazing, and there were just so many beautiful elements to it, and I'm not sure why I didn't give it 5 stars, but it just didn't have that 5-star feeling for me. I adore it, I love it, I highly recommend it, and I'm so keen to continue on with Redemptor. I can appreciate why everyone else gave it 5 stars. And then the last book that I read was an appalling on my end buddy read of All the Light We Cannot See by Anthony Doerr. I was buddy reading this with Sierra and Amy, and I did not send my thoughts through on the Instagram chat at all. Sorry. So I did read this, and I'm giving it a 3.5. I can appreciate the story, I can appreciate why people love this so much. I'm just not the biggest historical fiction reader, and this put me to sleep multiple times listening to the audiobook. So again, entered into the slump, so take everything I say with a grain of salt. The conversations around Nazi occupation and seeing the perspectives of one of the Germans versus our other protagonist, Mary Law, was so interesting, and I appreciate the historical aspects of it. It didn't hold my attention, and I didn't hate it. I enjoyed what I remember reading of it, but it's not memorable to me, and I really left it feeling like I didn't care, which is shocking because I know that it is a well-loved book, but I think that's more my preference as not being a historical fiction reader and just learning about myself and going, okay, yeah, I get that it works for everyone else, but it doesn't work for me. I really enjoyed Werner's ability to build things and to just look at electronics and grow from being in this orphanage to someone that is very talented. And I loved seeing Mary Law's relationship with her father and his use of puzzles and consistently like teaching her how to navigate the world. I think some elements of it that were leaning more into the mystical realism just didn't work for me. I didn't feel that they were relevant, and I don't know if that was just me not reading into it correctly. 3.5. I enjoyed it, but I did fall asleep, and I think that it's just not my cup of tea. So these plus The Adventures of Tom Sawyer were the books that I read in September, and like I said, I really had such a fantastic reading month. I felt really proud of everything that I read and checking off some goals and just having a good old time. Let me know in the comments what was the best book that you read in September and what was your favorite thing about it. If you like this video, feel free to give it a big thumbs up, and if you'd like to see more of this mess, feel free to subscribe, and I'll hopefully see you on my next video. Bye!